The straw hat was never a gift, it was a shackle. For over a decade, we believed that Shanks bet his arm on the new era, that he saw the light of the future in a young boy from the East Blue. But what if that bet wasn't made out of hope, but out of calculation? What if the man who inspired the entire journey was actually the final gatekeeper waiting to end it? Picture the shores of Laugh-Tale. The mist is clearing. The Straw Hat Pirates are exhausted, battered from their war against Blackbeard, but they are smiling. They have finally made it. The One Piece is just beyond the ridge, but they aren't alone. Standing between them and the treasure isn't a monster or a marine fleet. It is a single ship, the Red Force. Luffy's eyes light up. His heart, drumming with the rhythm of liberation, skips a beat not from the Gear 5 exhaustion, but from pure joy. He sees the silhouette of the man he has idolized since he was a child. He starts running. He pulls the battered straw hat off his head, ready to finally return it. He yells out that he's finally a great pirate, that he kept the promise. But Shanks doesn't smile. The air around Laugh-Tale suddenly grows heavy, heavier than it ever felt in Wano or Egghead. The birds stop singing. The waves stop crashing. A wave of Conqueror's haki so dense it feels like physical weight crushes the ground beneath Luffy's feet, forcing him to skid to a halt. Shanks hasn't moved a muscle, but the pressure is suffocating. It's not the warm, welcoming presence Luffy remembers. It is cold, sharp, and terrifyingly royal. Shanks slowly draws Griffin, the sound of the blade sliding from its sheath echoing like a death knell in the silent air. He looks down at Luffy, his eyes shadowed, devoid of the warmth they held in Fuchsia Village. He speaks softly, yet his voice cuts through the wind. He tells Luffy that he did well. He cleared the seas. He defeated Kaido, Big Mom, and Teach. He awakened the Nika fruit, something the world government failed to do for 800 years. Shanks steps forward, the ground cracking under his sandal. He says that the fruit was wild, uncontrollable, and dangerous. It needed a vessel to mature it. And now that the fruit is ripe, it is time to harvest it. The confusion on Luffy's face is heartbreaking. He doesn't understand. He asks if this is a joke, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the party to start. But then Ben Beckman raises his rifle, aiming it directly at Robin. Yasopp locks eyes with Usopp, not with the pride of a father, but with the cold calculation of a sniper acquiring a target. The realization hits the crew like a cannonball. This isn't a reunion, it's an execution. Zoro is the first to draw his swords, his instincts screaming that the man in front of them is the most dangerous predator they have ever encountered. He realizes now that Mihawk wasn't just rivals with a pirate, he was rivals with a killer who hid his true nature behind a smile and sake. Shanks finally reveals the truth. He isn't just a pirate. He is a Figureland, a descendant of the celestial dragons who sat upon the empty throne. His goal wasn't to destroy the system, but to maintain the balance. Joy Boy represents chaos, a dawn that burns too bright and destroys the order of the world. Shanks claims that true peace requires control, and the One Piece is a weapon that cannot be trusted in the hands of a chaotic god like Nika. He looks at the straw hat in Luffy's hand and says that the hat marked Luffy as a sacrifice, a pig raised for slaughter to awaken the power that Shanks needs to reset the world. The emotional damage is far worse than any physical blow. Usopp is trembling, tears streaming down his face as he looks at his dad, the man he dreamed of surpassing, who is now looking at him like a bug to be squashed. Sanji lights a cigarette, but his hands are shaking, not from fear but from the sheer rage of seeing Luffy's dream betrayed. Luffy looks down at the hat, the symbol of his freedom, the promise. He grips it so tight the straw begins to snap. The drums of liberation usually beat with joy, but now, as Luffy looks up, his eyes are shadowed. The drums begin to beat with a rhythm of sorrow and fury. Steam begins to rise from his shoulders. He doesn't go into Gear 5 instantly. He steps forward in his base form, his own Conqueror's haki exploding outward, clashing with Shanks. The sky above Laugh-Tale splits in two instantly. It's not like the clash with Kaido or Whitebeard. This split creates a void in the clouds that reveals the stars in the middle of the day. Red and black lightning tears apart the landscape. The two emperors rush at each other. Griffin meets a haki-clad fist. The impact creates a shockwave that blows the Red Force and the Sunny backward in the water. For the first time in the series, we see Shanks fighting with killing intent. He isn't testing. He is trying to decapitate him. Shanks is fast, faster than light. He uses his observation haki to see the future and kill it before it happens. He whispers that he saw this outcome 10 seconds ago. He slashes, and a massive cut opens up on Luffy's chest, spraying blood onto the sand. Luffy stumbles back, the pain bringing him back to reality. This is real. The man who saved his life is now trying to end it. But Luffy is an emperor too. He grit his teeth, the sadness being replaced by determination. If being Pirate King means he has to surpass even his idol, even the man who gave him the hat, then so be it. He shouts that he doesn't care about balance or order. He wants a world where his friends can eat as much as they want. And if Shanks stands in the way of that freedom, then he will have to crush him. The air shifts. Luffy's hair turns white. The clouds begin to swirl. He enters Gear 5, but there is no laughter this time. The giant warrior of white stands towering over, his face serious, resembling a vengeful god more than a liberator. Shanks looks up at the awakened Nika and narrows his eyes. He coats his sword in a haki so potent it looks like burning blood. He says that he will show Luffy the true power of the haki that brought the world to its knees. The crew battles are about to begin. Zoro steps in front of Ben Beckman, the gun meeting the blade. Sanji leaps towards Lucky Roo, and Usopp, wiping the tears from his eyes, draws his Kabuto against Yasopp. The final war for the throne hasn't ended. It has just begun, and the most painful trigger has just been pulled. The clash of the two crews turns the paradise of Laugh-Tale into a hellscape of shattered earth and twisted reality. It isn't just a battle of strength, it is a collision of ideologies. On one side, the chaotic freedom of the new generation, and on the other, the suffocating absolute order of the old guard. The most jarring silence comes from the forest, where a father and son stand 100 meters apart. Usopp's hands are shaking so violently that his Kabuto rattles against his chest. He looks at Yasopp, the man he spent his entire life lying about, weaving tales of a brave adventurer to fill the void of an empty home. But the man staring back at him isn't an adventurer. He is a soldier. Yasopp doesn't say a word. He simply raises his rifle, and before Usopp can even blink, a bullet grazes his cheek, drawing a line of hot blood. It wasn't a warning shot. It was a kill shot that Usopp barely dodged by instinct. The realization breaks something inside the sniper. His father isn't holding back. Yasopp loads another round, his voice cold and detached, telling Usopp that on the battlefield, lineage means nothing. If Usopp wants to call himself a brave warrior of the sea, he has to step over his father's corpse to do it. Tears stream down Usopp's face, not of fear, but of grief. He screams that he wanted to tell him stories, that he wanted to make him proud. Yasopp fires again, the bullet tearing through Usopp's bag of pop greens. He replies that pride is for the living, and right now, Usopp looks like he's already dead. For the first time, the god of snipers stops trembling. He wipes the snot and blood from his face. He realizes that the romantic image of his father was just another one of his lies. He locks in, his observation haki blooming under the trauma, and draws his slingshot. This isn't a reunion anymore, it's a patricide. A few miles away, the ground is being pulverized. Zoro is fighting a ghost. Ben Beckman moves with a lethargy that betrays his speed. He doesn't even draw a sword. He uses his rifle like a club, parrying Enma with the barrel coated in armament haki, so dense it feels like diamond. Zoro is breathing heavy, his three swords struggling to find an opening. Every time Zoro prepares a slash, Beckman is already there, his gun pressed against Zoro's temple. Beckman smokes his cigarette calmly, telling Zoro that playing samurai is cute, but they are pirates. He pulls the trigger. The bullet isn't just lead. It's a concentrated blast of haki that sends Zoro flying through 3 ancient stone pillars. Zoro coughs up blood, trying to stabilize his breathing. He realizes that Beckman isn't just reacting, he's calculating. Beckman is the smartest man in the East Blue for a reason. He is dissecting Zoro's style, finding the micro movements before an attack. He mocks Zoro, asking if he really thought serving a reckless child like Luffy would lead to anything other than an early grave. Zoro stands up, the demonic aura of the King of Hell flaring up. He grips his swords tighter, his one eye glowing red. He spits out the blood and growls that he doesn't care about the odds. If Beckman is the moon that supports the sun, then Zoro will just have to cut the moon in half. He rushes in, abandoning defense for pure, unadulterated offense, forcing the vice captain to finally take the cigarette out of his mouth. But the center of the storm is where the true terror lies. Luffy, in Gear 5, should be invincible. He is the warrior of liberation. He can turn the ground into rubber, he can grab lightning, he can rewrite the laws of physics. But against Shanks, none of it seems to matter. Shanks isn't fighting the rubber, he is fighting the will behind it. Every time Luffy tries to imagine a future where he lands a hit, the image shatters. Shanks is the killer of observation haki. He cancels out Luffy's ability to see the future, leaving the Straw Hat Captain fighting blind in a world of darkness. Luffy stretches his arm, turning it into a giant pistol, but before the attack even launches, Shanks is already inside his guard. Shanks moves like a phantom. There is no wasted movement, no flashy technique names, just pure efficient violence. He slashes Griffin upwards. It's a simple strike, but it carries the weight of a dying star. Luffy screams, the laughter of Nika choking in his throat. He tries to bounce back, to turn the pain into a joke, to jump rope with Shanks, but the red-haired Emperor doesn't play along. He grabs Luffy's rubbery arm and twists, slamming him into the ground with a force that cracks the tectonic plate beneath the island. Shanks stands over the fallen sun god, his face shadowed by the smoke of battle. He looks disappointed. He tells Luffy that Roger didn't wait for a fruit. He didn't rely on being chosen by destiny. Roger conquered the seas with haki alone because he knew that the world is cruel and unfair, and no amount of laughing will change that. Shanks raises his sword, the red lightning crackling so loud it deafens the rest of the battlefield. He prepares the technique that ended the Kid Pirates in a single breath. Divine Departure. But this isn't the warning shot he gave Kid. This is the executioner's swing meant to sever the connection between Nika and the world. Luffy looks up, his vision blurry. He sees his friends dying. He hears Usopp screaming in pain. He sees Zoro being overwhelmed. The joy of Gear 5 begins to fade, replaced by a cold, hard realization. Being a pirate isn't a game. It's not an adventure. It's a war for survival. The white hair begins to flicker. The heartbeat that sounded like drums of liberation starts to change rhythm. It becomes faster, more erratic. It sounds less like a drum and more like a desperate, raging thunder. Luffy realizes he can't beat Shanks by being a god. He has to beat him by being a monster. As Shanks swings the blade down, Luffy doesn't dodge. He catches the blade with his bare hands. Blood sprays everywhere, dripping onto the white sand, but the blade stops. The shock on Shanks' face is visible for a microsecond. Luffy's grip tightens, his haki evolving in real time, fueled by the sheer desperation of protecting his crew. The rubber doesn't just stretch anymore, it adapts. Luffy looks into Shanks' eyes, the smile gone, his face a mask of pure fury. He whispers that he will take it all back. The hat, the promise, the era. A blast of Conqueror's haki erupts from Luffy, so powerful that it knocks the unconscious bodies of the weaker crew members into the sea. This is the turning point. The student has stopped chasing the Master's shadow and has decided to swallow it whole. The real battle for the title of Pirate King begins now, written in blood and betrayal. Luffy doesn't pull back. He doesn't try to predict what Shanks will do next. He stops thinking entirely. If Shanks kills the future, then Luffy decides to simply destroy the present until there is nothing left but him. He headbutts Shanks, a crude, desperate move that no emperor would expect. The impact cracks the air itself. Shanks stumbles back, his concentration broken, and for the first time in the battle, his vision of the future goes dark. Chaos has finally breached his perfect order. Luffy screams, and the sound isn't human. The white clouds of Gear 5 turn storm gray, infused with the sheer weight of his Conqueror's haki. He winds up his arm, twisting it tighter and tighter, compressing the air until it screams. This isn't a technique named after a god, it's a technique named after a dream. Across the battlefield, the tide turns. Usopp, bleeding from a dozen wounds, stops trying to fight Yasopp like a sniper. He fights like a straw hat. He fires a pop green into the ground, not at his father. Vines erupt, tangling Yasopp's legs. Yasopp looks down in shock, and in that split second, Usopp is already in his face, slamming his dial-impacted hammer into his father's chest. The chaser is finally caught. Zoro, battered and barely standing, feels the rhythm of Beckman's bullets. He stops blocking. He cuts the distance. He steps into the line of fire, letting a bullet pierce his shoulder so he can deliver a single cross-shaped slash that shatters Beckman's rifle and leaves a deep scar across the vice captain's chest. The wings of the Pirate King have cleared the path. Luffy launches his fist. It moves so fast it catches fire, burning with the friction of his will. Shanks roars, swinging Griffin with everything he has left, a strike meant to sever the very concept of rebellion. The two attacks collide, and silence falls over the world. There is no explosion, just a blinding white light that engulfs Laugh-Tale. The memory of the straw hat being placed on a crying boy's head flashes through the minds of every pirate present. The promise, the betrayal, the end. Shanks lies on his back, staring up at the sky he tried so hard to control. Griffin is broken in two. He coughs, blood staining his white shirt, and looks at the figure standing over him. Luffy is back in his normal form, panting, his knuckles bruised and bloody. He doesn't look like a conqueror. He looks like a boy who just lost his hero. Shanks manages a weak, strained smile. He whispers that the gamble paid off. He explains with his dying breath that the world didn't need a keeper. It needed a storm to blow away the stagnation of 800 years. He played the villain because Joy Boy couldn't rise in a world of peace. He could only rise against a tyrant. Luffy falls to his knees. He grabs the tattered remains of the straw hat lying on the sand. He doesn't cry. He places the hat on Shanks' chest, covering the wound. He tells him to keep it. He doesn't need it anymore. He's not a pirate playing a game. He is the king. Shanks closes his eyes. The burden of his lineage finally lifted, leaving the world in the chaotic, dangerous, and free hands of Monkey D. Luffy.